What's going on, everybody? C4, welcome back to the channel. Before we get into my final 2022 NFL mock draft, I wanted to let you guys know that on Thursday, and most likely Friday, but for sure on Thursday, I will be hosting a live draft reaction stream here on the YouTubes. You don't have to go anywhere else. Just check out the channel, and I think we'll have a lot of fun. I'm sure there's going to be some waves made by the Philadelphia Eagles by maybe trading up or staying put and ending up drafting Drake London, and I lose my mind. You're not going to want to miss it. So here, probably about half hour before the draft officially starts, maybe a little bit earlier, we will be doing a live stream. So come check it out if you want to hang out on draft night. So let's get into the mock draft here. Now, this is not a what I would do mock draft. That was the last mock draft that I released a week or so ago. This is more of a predict the pick mock draft. Try to guess as many teams correctly and just see, after, probably on Saturday or whatever, do a reflection, do a recap, see how many we got right, see how many we got wrong, see how many, even at least positions we got right from this mock draft. There's also not going to be any trades. That's usually what you do in your final mock draft, because trades just, you make one prediction of a trade that doesn't happen, and your whole mock's kind of shot. But there are going to be trades that happen. I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets get out of 4-10. I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants get out of 5 or 7. I'm manifesting in my head a situation where the Carolina Panthers, sitting here at 6, Sauce Gardner and or Kayvon Thibodeau and or both of them somehow are still there at 6, and they trade back with the Philadelphia Eagles. Philly give them 15, second-round pick, and Andre Dillard. So the Panthers get their tackle in Dillard. They move down to 15. They can give the middle finger to the divisional rival Saints and select Malik Willis. That is a dream scenario, I think, for both teams. We're going to manifest it. We're going to believe it's going to happen, and we're not going to believe that Philadelphia is going to draft Drake London in the first round. That is what we're doing here on this channel. But yeah, in this mock draft, we are predicting the pick. I'm using a lot of things. We're using some of the Vegas odds. We're using pro day visits. We're using general manager tendencies. We're looking at team needs to try and predict the correct pick. And without further ado, at the first overall selection, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars selecting Travon Walker, the edge rusher, one-of-one athlete out of Georgia. Now, I would personally take the safe thing. I think a team like Jacksonville that's just, rocky boat. They're taking on water. They're trying to rewrite the ship here with Doug Peterson, a new regime. I personally think, and while it may not be as much upside, I would just still go the safe pick. You need the safe pick. You need a guy for sure that's going to be a day one contributor. And while someone like Aiden Hutchinson might not have the ceiling of a Travon Walker, probably doesn't even have the ceiling of a Kayvon Thibodeau, I feel like the best bet is Aiden Hutchinson's got to be like a double-digit sack guy. Maybe low double digits. Maybe he's a guy that's getting 9 to 12 sacks a year, where someone like Travon Walker could, and Thibodeau, be a 15, 16-plus sack type player. I don't know if I want to risk that, especially with Jacksonville. Jackson, push away. End of the day, Jacksonville just can't have a bust here. With the number one overall pick, back-to-back years, you got to make sure it's a for-sure thing. And something like Travon Walker is not a for-sure thing. But knowing the tendencies of Balky, Vegas is kind of siding this direction. It's not a brutal pick. It's a swing-for-the-fences pick. And, I hope for Jacksonville, I have no ill will to the Jags. I hope if they do go Travon Walker, it works out. He's a S-tier athlete. He's from a historic Georgia defense. You're going to have to nurture him a little bit. There's got to be a little bit of a learning curve, but the upside is immense. Pick 2 for the Detroit Lions. We are going to select Aiden Hutchinson. They're probably pretty happy, I think. I think Hutchinson is a good fit. Both Walker and Hutchinson have taken official top 30 visits with both these teams. Teams have done their homework. And I do feel like Aiden Hutchinson is absolutely a Dan Campbell guy. And really, for both these teams right at the rip, I'm going to be shocked if it is a tackle, because both these teams desperately need edge rush help. I think the Lions will be perfectly fine with the Jaguars selecting Travon Walker. Pick 3, we have the Houston Texans. This is a pick I don't want to see happen, but the more and more I just look at the Texans, the more and more there's some doubts about Kayvon Thibodeau's, I don't want to say off the field, because he doesn't have legit off the field. People just think he's a little bit of a diva type guy. That's what I'm getting. There's some work ethic concerns, even though I personally don't really see him, but that's obviously something that scouts that have done interviews and stuff like that. I heard he didn't interview particularly well. I think if I'm Houston, I probably would still just go Thibodeau here, because pass rushers, the value is there. But also, I'm going with my number one player. If you watch my big board, I think Sauce Gardner is as safe of a player as you can get at a position that's incredibly not safe. For every Jalen Ramsey supposed can't miss corner, you get a Jeff Okudah can't miss corner. And I feel like Sauce Gardner has an incredibly high floor for an elite playmaker at that corner spot. He is my dream pick for the Philadelphia Eagles. And it's going to take a lot, because I can see Houston, I can see the Jets, I can see the Giants all just saying, screw it, we're going with Sauce Gardner still on the board. I mean, those teams easily could go tackle. There could be a situation where at 3, the Texans go Kayvon Thibodeau. At 4, the Jets grab a tackle, be it Neal or Ekwonu. At 5, especially because now there's reports, the Jets might want to move on from Mekhi Becton, the big ticket. So, I mean, the best case scenario for me as an Eagle fan is that Thibodeau goes at 3, 4, they grab a tackle, they grab Evan Neal. 5, the Giants grab Ekwonu, and then at 6, Philly can trade up and get Sauce. But I think if I'm the Houston Texans, given this board, given the fact that you need to just get a sure thing, there's 0 character concerns, 0 work ethic concerns with Sauce Gardner, that would be my pick at pick 3. Pick 4 for the New York Jets. Again, just don't know how much validity there is to the Mekhi Becton on the trade block stuff. We know the Jets are aggressively trying to get Deebo Samuel. I mean, I don't think Mekhi Becton will be a part of that deal because, with the Niners, they got Mike McGlinchey, they got Trent Williams. But they could absolutely go tackle here. Absolutely. But given the board, I think you go pass rusher. I think Kayvon Thibodeau offers the most juice at that spot, the most bang for your buck right away at that spot. And knowing that Robert Saleh, defensive-minded head coach, I think it's going to be pretty hard-pressed for him to not go the best defensive player available. And I would argue in terms of the edge rushers, and it's a very strong edge rusher class, that Thibodeau's ceiling is right up there with Travon Walker. He might not be the athlete that Travon Walker is, but he has the production, he has the proven production, consistent production at Oregon that Travon Walker just doesn't really have. He has the snaps. He's been regarded as like a top 1 pick for feels like 3 years now in college football. So I think Robert Saleh would probably be sold here on Kayvon Thibodeau. They brought him in for an official visit as well. They've done their homework, and I think the defensive head coach gets an elite defensive pass rusher prospect. Pick 5, we have the New York Giants, and here I'm going to have them get Ike Ekwonu, the tackle from NC State. He was also there on a visit. They've done their homework. There's just slight rumblings. It's probably stuff that gets slipped out there by teams trying to get these guys to fall, but there's just slight rumblings that some medicals have popped on Evan Neal. I don't know what extent those are, but I will just say that there's slight knock right now. If you're comparing Ike Ekwonu and Evan Neal, who really do seem like a 1A, 1B for a lot of people for the top tackle in the class, there's just nothing attached to Ike Ekwonu. Maybe the fact, you want to say maybe Ekwonu, some people say he could kick into guard, but Evan Neal played guard at Alabama as well. So I would give the slight edge to Ekwonu at this point over Evan Neal, just kind of given where the reports, the medicals are kind of starting to come through the cracks on Evan Neal. But the validity of those, who knows? These teams have done their homework, especially for a team like the Giants. They brought both these guys in, so it is an equal playing field on their homework, on the information. I'll give a slight edge here to Ike Ekwonu. Either way, I would be shocked if at pick 5 the Giants don't grab one of these 2 tackles. At pick 6, again, no trades. We'd love Philly to come up here at this point. I would still love Philly to come up here at this point. I feel like Derek Stingley would be almost worthy of that selection. But that's it. I wouldn't trade up for anybody else if I was the Eagles. At pick 6 for the Carolina Panthers, they are going to get Evan Neal. At this spot, the way that this scenario is kind of working out, and then this is just hindsight, especially if that suggested trade that I did for the Eagles, if it made Panther fans upset. Look at this mock draft. Would you rather have, instead of Evan Neal, Andre Dillard and Malik Willis, or would you rather just have Evan Neal, no 2nd-round pick, no 3rd-round pick, and you're going with Sam Darnold again? You know what I'm saying? I really do think that's a perfect trade on both sides. But no trades, nothing like that. The Panthers are staying at 6. It seems like they're sticking with Darnold. Unless they're going to be aggressive and trying to move up in the back end of the 1st round, or hoping that a quarterback's still there in the 2nd round, like a Corral, Ritter, Howell, which could happen. But they need to, if you're going with Darnold, you got to give him a better offensive line than what they had last year. You have Christian McCaffrey, again, another player that can make a lot behind a bad O-line, but make his life easier with a good O-line. And Evan Neal is my 2nd overall player on my big board, just behind Sauce Gardner. I think that'd be an excellent plug-and-play day 1 starter at left tackle for the Carolina Panthers, and another player that was officially brought in on a top 30 visit. Pick 7 for the New York Giants. I am going to go I don't see this one mocked them a lot, but this is me maybe just being an upset salty Eagles fan. I just can see this happening, and I'm gonna have them get Derek Stingley. There's been no mystique around the fact that I think they want to move on from James Bradbury. And if you're moving on from James Bradbury, that then creates a big hole at corner. They've done their homework on Derek Stingley. The upside on Derek Stingley is immense. I think it wouldn't be ridiculous to say that Derek Stingley has a higher ceiling than Sauce Gardner, especially the fact that freshman Derek Stingley might be like the greatest corner I've seen since I've been following in college football and following and making draft content. It was insane. It was ridiculous. So I know a lot of Eagle fans want Derek Stingley. I know that like at 6, again, if the board goes this way, Thibodeau and Sauce are off and Philly still wants to trade up, they're most likely trading up for a Derek Stingley. Maybe Garrett Wilson. Maybe Jamison Williams, which would be pretty disgusting. Maybe Jordan Davis, which would be pretty disgusting. But I think Derek Stingley would be the guy. So how fitting if this trade doesn't play and this kind of happens out, Twitter would be going insane for Philly to come up and get Derek Stingley. And how fitting would it be for Derek Stingley to end up in the division on the New York Giants? So that's kind of why I made this pick, because I just feel like that's how it would happen. But it makes a lot of sense for the Giants, knowing that they want to move on from Bradbury and Stingley. They did their homework on him. He's a guy that you absolutely would have to bring in for a visit, and the Giants are one of the teams that, on record, have brought him in for a visit. Pick 8, we have the Atlanta Falcons. You're probably a little upset here, and this is actually my first pick of a player that didn't go for a official visit on the records, and those are sometimes, like, I like to use those visits, because, why wouldn't you, bring in, especially for your first-round pick, a guy in for a visit? But I'm going to have them go Jermaine Johnson here, the pass rusher out of Florida State. I'm a little bit lower on Jermaine Johnson than most. I think my 27th overall player on my big board. That's just lack of bend, and you look at the nerd analytics, like his pass rush win rate and stuff like that is not S tier. It's not near the top of the class, but the athletic ability, the production that he had at Florida State for a team like Atlanta that is reshaping. They're a 3-4 defense. They had last year's draft to kind of start reshaping that a little bit. This is another draft to continue to throw premium assets to make that full conversion to a 3-4, and I think they are lacking a premier pass rusher, and I think someone like Jermaine Johnson is, while his game's not bad, he can rush the passer. I think he's a good run defender and a very good athlete with the 4.5 and 40 and stuff like that. So I don't think it's a bad fit. Maybe they brought him in for a visit and they haven't really publicized that, but I do think that makes a lot of sense given the board at this point for Atlanta. I mean, other than this, they could go, with the top wide receiver on the board, be it a Garrett Wilson, be it a Jamison Williams, but it comes down to the fact that where is the more value going to be? Because if Atlanta doesn't trade up, they're going to have to wait till the second round. And are you going to be able to get your pass rusher in the second round? Who's going to be there in the second round? Ebiketie, Benito, someone like that. Like, there's a couple guys, but you also look at the wide receivers that are going to be available in the second round. There's a chance Jahan Dotson's, George Pickens, Sky Moore, Christian Watson, John Mechie in particular. Those are going to be the guys that are going to be there in the second round. I think the drop-off from edge in the second to wide receiver in the second makes me kind of prioritize edge. So that's why we have them here going Jermaine Johnson at 8. Not a bad pick. Number 9 for the Seattle Seahawks. They could go quarterback. Atlanta could go quarterback. But 9 for Seattle, I'm going to have them find it. This is the ultimate we're trolling Russell Wilson pick. While Russell Wilson was there, they just never assessed a need at the offensive line ever, man. It felt like. And then, of course, at 9, they get Charles Cross. Their Dwayne Brown replacement. Charles Cross is regarded as a better pass pro, maybe arguably the strongest pure pass blocking tackle in this year's draft class. Would be plug and play left tackle there for the Seattle Seahawks. Yeah, it's just, it makes too much sense at this point, especially if they're not in on any of these quarterbacks, at least at 9. Where else would you go? The value is there in Charles Cross. They're not going to be grabbing a wide receiver unless big-time revelations happen and DK Metcalf potentially getting traded. So I think Charles Cross is a fairly easy selection here at 9 for Seattle, who desperately needs some O-line help. Surprise, surprise. They desperately need offensive line help for the 15th straight year, it feels like. Number 10, we have the Jets back on the clock, and I'm going to have them get my top-rated wide receiver, and that is Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State. They've done their homework on Garrett Wilson. They brought him in for an official visit, and I just think, for me, he's convincingly the top wide receiver in this draft class. He has everything that you need. He has speed. He has route running. He has jump ball ability, even though he's not the biggest guy. He has, deep threat ability. I literally just feel like he's the best of both worlds. Because when you get Drake London, it's all right, jump ball. Jamison Williams, speed. You look at Burks, versatility. Olave, Dotson, route runners. Pickens is very good. I'm very high on George Pickens, but he has the off the field issues, the personality concerns, we'll say. Garrett Wilson has all of those things, minus the personality concerns. Maybe he's not as versatile as a Treylon Burks, but I just kind of think he's the best of both worlds at wide receiver, and the Jets absolutely going defense. You get your guy. Saleh got his defensive guy. At 10, you gotta help your quarterback out here, and I think Garrett Wilson is the best chance at doing that. Pick 11, we have the Commanders, and I'll buy a Commanders jersey if they do this for us. I'm gonna have them go Drake London at wide receiver. They brought him in for a visit. They've done a lot of homework on Drake London. He complements their wide receiver core. It's fair to assume then you look at the wide receivers there for the Commanders. You have Scary Terry, baller. Got to pay him though. Are they gonna pay him? They absolutely should. But you look at the style. NFL is moving more and more towards having a wide receiver core. I've talked about this when we talk about the Philadelphia Eagles, where you want guys that can kind of do everything. Scary Terry's your do-it-all guy. Yeah, Curtis Samuel as your utility, versatility guy. But when you look at Carson Wentz, the single best wide receiver that Carson Wentz has had, that suited his skill set, was Alshon Jeffrey. What does Alshon Jeffrey do? He's kind of slow, but he's terrific on the jump ball. You throw it up, he goes up and gets it. Who's the best? Throw it up, go up and get it for the quarterback that the Commanders made a considerable trade for, considerable investment for, given how low Carson Wentz's stock is. And the best wide receiver to pair with Carson Wentz that they're lacking is Drake London. And they've done their homework on him, and I would love this. I would just love the peace of mind of knowing that Philadelphia can't get Drake London at 15 or 18. And let's just hope, God willing, if you're a believer of that, and if you are, please do some stuff for me. Make it happen. Drake London to the Commanders at 11. Next up on the clock at pick 12 is the Minnesota Vikings, and here we kind of, it's almost universally accepted at this point that corner is the biggest need for the Minnesota Vikings. They'll be pretty bummed out that the top two corners have already gone, but they're still going to get an incredibly smart defender who, again, it could be a little bit polarizing. I'm still not 100% convinced that he's going to be an outside corner in the NFL. I wouldn't bet against it, but there is a chance. And I just feel like the Minnesota Vikings, they need both corners. You kind of get best of both worlds. Worst case scenario, he's a slot, and it's not as valuable of a top 12 pick, but he's going to be, I would say, almost a fringe elite slot prospect at that corner spot. Or he's going to be an outside corner, and he's the best outside corner available, and pick 12 is a fair payment, fair price to pay for someone of Trent McDuffie. I don't think you can do wrong there. Kind of surprised that there's been no record of an official visit with McDuffie here, because, if you're the Vikings, you desperately need corner help. It's unlikely. You have to be pretty optimistic to assume that Sauce Gardner or Derek Stingley would fall all the way to 12. It makes a lot of sense for me, and I don't think many Viking fans would be too upset with the Trent McDuffie selection. Pick 13, the Houston Texans are back on the clock. Slightly a surprise pick here, but it's all about BPA at this point for Houston. They literally need anything. They need everything. And a player that is very much hot topic this week, that he's trending up boards, and a lot of teams maybe have him as wide receiver 1. I'm going to have the Houston Texans get Jameson Williams from Alabama. I know a lot of Eagle fans at this point can be pretty upset because I asked Eagle fans, what's your dream mock draft realistic scenario? And almost all of them had Jameson Williams in some way, shape, or form coming to the Eagles at 15 or 18, most likely 15. But if I am the Houston Texans, you just go BPA at this point. They could go Jordan Davis. They could have a difference in opinion of, maybe the wide receivers here. They could value Burks or Olave potentially higher, but I just think that, again, and kind of what I used yesterday in my Eagles mock draft, I had the Eagles at 15 actually going Jameson Williams, is that as much as, you're still looking at Davis Mills and you're trying to see what he can do, Jameson Williams selection is not just for this year. It's about 2023. And Houston, much like my Eagles, much like, there's Atlanta, much like maybe the Giants, Lions, there's a lot of moves this year that might be made with the idea, we need guys that are going to help our 2023 quarterback. And I kind of think the Texans kind of fall into that a little bit. And Jameson Williams is a deep threat. It's a style of player. You look at him. I think a good comp is when Will Fuller was absolutely popping off with Deshaun Watson, a healthy Will Fuller. And they don't have that. And I think Jameson Williams can be that playmaker. I mean, who knows what's going to go on with Brandon Cooks. Even with Brandon Cooks, you can never have enough speed at the wide receiver spot. The Texans had Jameson Williams in for a top visit. They've done their homework on him. They probably more so were let's get the medical. Let's see, is he going to be ready to start the season? If not, how much time is he going to be missing out on? But they did their homework, and it makes a lot of sense for Houston to go with the most explosive playmaker in the draft. 14, we have the Baltimore Ravens. This would, again, this is not an Eagles mock draft, but I'm an Eagles fan. This would be a very much kind of a slap in the Eagles' face to a certain degree. I mean, looking at the board, there's two players I think Philly would be really happy with at this point. But I think the Baltimore Ravens here would go Jordan Davis at 14. My Albert Haynesworth 2.0, for better or for worse. They just don't build guys like this anymore. And you look at the Baltimore Ravens defense, they need to get a little bit younger. They got Michael Pierce on a 1-year deal. How much more juice left in the tank does Calais Campbell have? They got to get younger on that defensive line. I think Jordan Davis with athleticism, I think the fact that they already have guys in place, so if there is some worry about Jordan Davis with his weight and his reps and stuff like that, he's not going to get thrown to the wolves. He's not going to be, slotted in as the guy, have to be the guy right away, day one of camp. They can go with a little bit of a slow burn approach, put him when he's ready, and I think the ceiling is immense with Jordan Davis. He's my number 6 player, I believe, on my big board. And getting him at 14 it's a good value pick, and that's exactly what the Baltimore Ravens seem to do every single year. So Philadelphia is now left here at 15. And I've been very adamant. 15, 18, and our second round pick, 51. If Philly just waits at those 3 picks, we're probably going to be pretty disappointed, because I just feel like in all those situations, guys are falling off the board that right here at 15, Philly would, between Davis, Williams, McDuffie, just those 3 picks alone would be like Philly's running that up to the board to select these guys. Here at 15, you got to think a little bit more open-minded. Given the board, you have Kyle Hamilton here. I thought about taking Kyle Hamilton at 15. We'll just wait. That might spoil a little bit pick, but I think if Philly likes Kyle Hamilton, and there's been some reports, who knows how official, that Philly has not pulled the trigger yet on Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu, because they think there's a chance Kyle Hamilton might fall to them in the draft. In this scenario, he's there. But I think if you're Philadelphia, you don't need to worry about the Saints or the Chargers selecting Kyle Hamilton. I don't think you need to worry about a team trading up with the Saints or the Chargers for Kyle Hamilton. So at 15, you got to make your pick that would be competing with the Saints or the Chargers. And I think when you talk about that, it's going to be at the wide receiver spot. So I'm going to Philly at 15, get Chris Olave out of Ohio State. They brought him in for an official visit, even though he's maybe a little too similar to Devontae Smith. I think Philly's interest in Calvin Ridley has shown that they're not necessarily trying to build a core. They just want the best wide receivers available. They want to put the best wide receivers out there for Jalen Hurts, regardless of if they tick off a box, regardless of if they do the same, have the same skill set, similar skill set. They just want the best wide receivers available. And I think given this board, while the versatility of Treylon Burks could be intriguing, I think the fact that Chris Olave is pro-ready, he's good to go. Where Burks, you probably there's some concerns about his route tree and stuff like that. I think Olave's a good. I'd be fine with this. Olave might not be, oh my God, I'm ordering an Olave jersey right away type hype draft pick. But I think, again, for Philadelphia this year with Jalen Hurts, you're trying to see if Jalen Hurts is your guy. Devontae Smith, Chris Olave, Dallas Goedert, and then you got Quez as your deep threat. That's a lot of weapons, given the offensive line of the run game, to see if Jalen Hurts can be your guy. And then again, looking forward to 2023, Devontae Smith, Chris Olave, Dallas Goedert, the offensive line. That's a hell of a building block for whatever quarterback Philly has in 2023, be it Jalen Hurts or, for the love of God, please, Bryce Young. At pick 16, we have the Saints going Malik Willis. I think a lot of people just assumed that when the Saints acquired the additional first-round pick from the Philadelphia Eagles, that they were looking to get a quarterback with at least one of those selections. Malik Willis falling here. I mean, it's unlikely. I don't want to say unlikely, but I would probably bet that someone's going to trade up to get Malik Willis. If not, though, there's no trades in this mock draft. I think the Saints and Malik Willis is a pretty good pairing. I'd rather Malik Willis with his upside over Jameis Winston. Personally, and even then, you can go with Jameis this year, ease Malik Willis in, maybe give him the Trey Lance approach a little bit. But I think the Saints are going to look for their quarterback of the future here this season, and that is Malik Willis. 17 for the Chargers. We are going to have them select Trevor Penning, the right tackle out of Northern Iowa. Not the best board for the Chargers. I know the Chargers really would look at someone like Jordan Davis would be dope. I mean, there's wide receiver. But I think Penning, plug and play. They big need at tackle. Obviously, there's the jumping competition going from Northern Iowa. You would hope sooner than later he'd be able to start at right tackle. But I think it's a gamble worth having. He could be a penalty magnet in the NFL. He could also just be the next John Runyon type player. And I think the Chargers are going to gamble on that because protecting Justin Herbert is top priority for them. Pick 18 with the Philadelphia Eagles back on the clock, and here's where they get Kyle Hamilton falling right into their lap. The free fall is I just think it's going to happen. I think Kyle Hamilton will fall. It might not work out in the way that Philly gets him, but I do see an absolute scenario where Philadelphia has a chance at Kyle Hamilton. It's all going to be, do they want him or not? They didn't bring him in for a visit, which is a little interesting, or at least on record. But I think, and there's been a lot made about people talking about the Philadelphia Eagles secondary with Jonathan Gannon, that safeties are more valuable than corners. That's been said more than once when people smarter than me with the X's and O's have been breaking down the Eagles' defense. And if that truly is the case, and I do think that there's value at these other safety spots. I don't know. You could argue somehow, some way, if Philly in the second round could get Cine, Petrie, maybe even Brisker, that could be better value than getting a safety in the first round in Kyle Hamilton. But I just think that's very wishful thinking that Cine, Petrie, or Brisker will be there at 51 for the Eagles. Well, at this point, I feel like Philly just has their opportunity to get the guy that they think's the best safety, which is a massive position of need, which it doesn't feel like they really want to pay the price for Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger. So why not go Kyle Hamilton here at 18? Now, that would be a pretty high pick, to be honest with you. I think that's going to get the Eagle fans going, and he's going to be a day one impact playmaker for the Philadelphia Eagles, even though the more you kind of break down Kyle Hamilton, the less he kind of looked like a blue chip player in this year's draft class. He's still a hell of a safety prospect. Pick 19, we have the New Orleans Saints up again. And here's where we have them. They need a wide receiver. They're going to get Treylon Burks. They brought him in on a visit. They've done their homework on him. The versatility is there. I think the question with Treylon Burks is how is he going to coexist with Michael Thomas? They both, Burks ran a lot out of the slot. That's what, Michael Thomas does. But also, there's uncertainty about Michael Thomas's future, long-term future in New Orleans. There's also the fact that Burks can do it all. I don't think you have to pigeonhole Treylon Burks as a slot. He can be a gadget guy sooner than later and develop as an outside player. He's just a really good wide receiver that you want to gamble on his traits. You want to gamble on his versatility. And people keep knocking it for a lack of athleticism, man. He ran a 4.5, and he's like 20 pounds heavier than every wide receiver in this draft class. He is plenty athletic. He has plenty speed. And I think he can be outside guy for sure. So I think the Saints, they could go tackle, but there's no real tackles worth getting at 19. So they get the last legitimate lock first round wide receiver on the board. Pick 20, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I'm going to have them get Kenny Pickett. I'm not going to lie, I don't love this pick. This kind of just feels like consolation prize. It does seem like the Pittsburgh Steelers would much rather Malik Willis in this situation. But I think if they want Malik Willis, they're going to have to trade up. They're not going to be able to sit there on their hands and wait for Malik Willis to fall to 20. They're going to have to be aggressive. But if not, I think Kenny Pickett, kind of guy, might not have the upside. But I think, I would rather Kenny Pickett, maybe not in 2022. Honestly, I would rather Kenny Pickett in 2022 than Mitchell Trubisky. So, it makes it a little confusing there. I could see if they don't go Kenny Pickett, maybe Desmond Ridder could be a selection. Maybe if we're doing an official score, I get a half point. Because I would think, knowing Mike Tomlin, I think the type of quarterback they may look for would be more of a Desmond Ridder. But I do like Kenny Pickett more than Desmond Ridder. They've done their homework on Kenny Pickett. They've done a lot of homework on the quarterbacks in this year's draft class. But give me Kenny Pickett at Pittsburgh, even though I'm not the biggest fan of that. I know a lot of Steeler fans won't. But knowing the draft board, it'd be actually interesting. I would love to actually hear the opinion of the Steeler fans. Knowing at 20, saying you're going quarterback, who would you really want? Ignore these rankings. You had one quarterback play. Would you rather get Pickett, who you assume is going to play sooner than later, or with knowing you have Mr. Biscuit, Mitchburg for a season, do you go with guys that kind of you can redshirt a little bit? Matt Corral, Ridder, Howell to a certain degree. Let me know, Steeler fans, what you think about the quarterback spot if Malik Willis is already off the board. 21, we have the New England Patriots, and here's actually something that I didn't really think about, but seems like a Bill Belichick pick. I'm having them go Devin Lloyd, the linebacker out of Utah. A linebacker is a big need for the Patriots. I guess the argument does come in, is there a linebacker worthy of a first-round selection this year? I think if there is one, it is Devin Lloyd. I had him pretty highly rated on my big board. I think Bill Belichick is going to absolutely love the type of player that Devin Lloyd is. The only reason why I don't love this pick is Bill Belichick always kind of seems to be the kind of guy that would, he understands positional value, and he could probably think linebacker. We need a linebacker, but we're not going to look at linebacker the second or third round. We don't want to overreach. But I do think Devin Lloyd is a perfect linebacker for Bill Belichick, and it might be too good for him to pass up here at 21, especially given the board that's left. I think Devin Lloyd's probably going to be BP. They could look at Booth potentially in the secondary to kind of fill in and beef on that secondary after losing J.C. Jackson. I like Devin Lloyd there, though. 22, the Green Bay Packers. And this is where you get your C4 mock draft, because I'm going to have them go George Pickens. George Pickens, even with the out-the-field stuff, he's a first-round wide receiver for me. An easy first-round wide receiver for me. And the biggest thing that I kind of like this pairing is, Green Bay, I don't think they tend to draft, maybe potentially low-character guys, but they brought George Pickens in for a visit. So they've done their homework, and I'm just going to assume that the visit went well, and they're like, this is our guy. This is the guy that's going to make Aaron Rodgers happy. Absolutely. I think, much as I like Jahan Dotson, he's no George Pickens. Jahan Dotson might have to play in the slot. I think he has a little bit of juice on the outside, but he might be best suited in the slot. George Pickens is an outside wide receiver, and those are always going to carry a little bit more value as long as Green Bay gave the thumbs up on the interview. 23, we have the Arizona Cardinals up on the clock, and I'm going to have them get George Karlaftis, the edge rusher out of Purdue. I think their pass rush could get younger. You lost a very good pass rusher in Chandler Jones. So you look at someone like Karlaftis, which might be a little bit seen as like a consolation prize, but you're still sitting here at 23. Karlaftis across the board is considered a first-round edge rusher. Maybe doesn't have the production, maybe doesn't have the athleticism that you would love to see for a first-round edge rusher, but into the 20s, you could do a lot worse than a power rusher with the upside that Karlaftis has. 24, we have the Dallas Cowboys on the clock, and I'm going to have them improve their offensive line here, and they're going to get Zion Johnson, a versatile interior lineman out of Boston College. Most likely he's going to be a guard, but he worked out his pro day at center. Either way, I think from the left-hand side into the center, Zion Johnson could probably be a plug-and-play left guard there to step up and arguably be an upgrade, I think, right away than Connor Williams was. I think long-term, easily a higher ceiling than what Connor Williams had. So I think that's kind of a plug-and-play for a team that's just, it's known for their offensive line, and their offensive line's getting up there at an age. They lost some guys because of the Zeke Elliott contract, and Zion Johnson kind of keeps the offensive line together a little bit. Pick 25, the Buffalo Bills. I really did think about Breece Hall here. I think that'd be an awesome pick. But also, maybe they learn from the Kansas City Chiefs, because I think if you're the Bills and you go Breece Hall, maybe it's a little too similar to when the Chiefs got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, which is kind of surprising. It was like a surplus. We're just going to make just a kind of crazy pick to put us over the top. Maybe that's not going to be the best use of investments here for the Bills. So that's why I have them selecting Andrew Booth, the corner out of Clemson. I think Andrew Booth has the upside to play on the other side of Trey White. He could probably play sooner than later in case Trey White's not 100% ready to go at the start of the season. Then ideally, big picture, Trey White, Andrew Booth, and Teron Johnson in your slot spot. Plus, you still got the veterans back there and the safeties, Hyde and Poyer. Kind of puts together that Bills secondary. As much as you want to admire the awesomeness that was that Bills-Chiefs game, there was some terrible defense. So I think if I'm the Bills, while it could be intriguing to kind of put your offense over the top, make them even more overpowered, I think I would go with a guy that's really one of my last few guaranteed first-round caliber players on the defensive side of the ball. 26, we have the Tennessee Titans, and I'm going to be selecting Kenyon Green at a Texas A&M. Versatile lineman, could be a guard, could be a tackle. I think that versatility is key. They brought him in for an official visit, and I think Kenyon Green, while I wasn't overly impressed with him at the combine, really, especially during the drills, he's still kind of just been throughout this process like a consensus first rounder. And if you're the Tennessee Titans, kind of similar to the Cowboys pick here at 24, just keep that offensive line playing at a high level because your offense runs through how good your offensive line is performing. And Kenyon Green is a fairly high floor, safe player in the first round. You're not going to get burned like when they reached for Isaiah Wilson a couple years ago. 27, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I'm going to have them get Devontae Wyatt out of Georgia. Probably talent-wise could go higher, but there are some legitimate off-the-field red flags, DV and stuff like that you got to do your homework on him. But the Bucs brought him in for a visit, so I do think Devontae Wyatt is too talented to slip out of the first round. That's the world of football. Very good player, as impressive, especially on the field at the combine, and his testing was off the charts. It's just a good fit here for the Bucs who need to get younger on that front. And, now they got a defensive head coach. They're going to want to get some defensive guys, and I think Wyatt to the Bucs, as long as they're okay with the off the field, makes way too much sense there at 27. Green Bay's back on the clock at number 28. And shout out to Franchise Guy. This is probably going to be his dream pick. I have Daxton Hill. I think the versatility of Dax Hill being a slot corner, being a long-term successor to maybe Amos at safety. There's just so much versatility here. They could double up at wide receiver if they really wanted to. They could go like a Jahan Dotson or just say, Sky Moore on the slide. I just feel like you don't go with a guy that could. I wouldn't hate that, though. If I'm a Packer fan, I wouldn't hate going Pickens and Jahan Dotson. But show a little love on either side of the ball at this point. I think Daxton Hill's versatility and upside long-term in that secondary would be a good pick there for Green Bay. Back-to-back selections here for the Kansas City Chiefs. First up, I'm going to have them get my real last kind of first-round wide receiver, and that is Jahan Dotson. Now, they haven't done any homework really on Jahan Dotson on the record. They brought in Christian Watson for a visit. That could be a Chiefs selection, kind of a swing for the fences selection of Christian Watson here. So give me the half point if they do go Watson. But I have Dotson as you're going to have a lot of speed still with, the guys they have there. You got Juju in the slot. It's all going to be how they view Jahan Dotson. I don't think Jahan Dotson is going to be an exclusive slot wide receiver at the next level. But if they do view him as that, someone that's going to be a guaranteed outside player, that kind of leaves Christian Watson there at 29. But when you just look at where they are at players right now, Jahan Dotson's just so much farther ahead of Christian Watson on just about everything. Route running, I think his hands, I think his intelligence, reading a defense, it's not even comparable. But Jahan Dotson is 5'11", like 185, 190. Maybe not even that. Christian Watson is 6'4", 2-something, 4.3 speed. Those guys the freaks just tend to go a little bit higher. But I think if I'm Kansas City, I think you find a way to get creative with Jahan Dotson and maximize his skill set. And I think he's just a little bit safer of a player. Because Kansas City, they don't really have the luxury to wait and see on Christian Watson. I think they need someone that can catch balls right away from Patrick Mahomes. And if that's the case, you go Dotson. But I could also see them going Christian Watson here at 29. 30 for the Chiefs, back up again. This was tough. I think for me, it came down to either getting Mafe, the edge rusher out of Minnesota, even though I have Ebiketie as my next highest graded pass rusher. But I think they will go at this selection corner, and they're going to get Kyrie Elam. They lost a lot of their secondary. I think Kyrie Elam has the upside to be an island corner. I think Kyrie Elam I'd have him graded higher than Andrew Booth. I have him graded higher. Do I have it? I think I had him in my big board ahead of Trent McDuffie. Yes, there's Gator bias there. But Elam, 6'1", 4.3 speed. I'm not going to say as good because no one has as good of a freshman season as Derek Stingley had for LSU. But I think if you're going to refer to that freshman season with the Derek Stingley LSU, you have to do the same for Kyrie Elam. Kyrie Elam was almost as good. Almost. But there was still a gap. But he was so damn good. And I think that you need to apply that to him, man. He can tackle, he can run, he can cover, and he has really, really high upside at the secondary spot. 31 for the Bengals. We're going to have them select Tyler Linderbaum, the center out of Iowa. You'd have to, kick Karras to one of the guard spots. I just think, again, gotta just go offensive line still at this point. Make sure you have the best offensive line in the NFL to protect Joe Burrow, for the love of God. As someone that's a neutral, someone that wants to see Joe Burrow just take over the AFC, protect him. You've done a good job so far. Kind of finish that all off by getting Linderbaum, who, in my opinion, has a chance to be the second coming of Jason Kelce. And we finish the first round, pick 32 with the Detroit Lions. Could go quarterback. A lot of momentum. Maybe Desmond Ridder here. I'm going to go with Nakobe. I'm not going to make this pick because it kind of ends the mock draft here. Actually, no, screw, we'll do it. I'm going to go to Kobe Dean. They brought him in for a pre-draft visit. Seems, again, like a Dan Campbell guy. Athletic. Who knows? Some concerns, some question marks. Size. He's under 6 feet tall. He just looks like a Dan Campbell guy. He's going to go, all right, that guy there is going to wear the green sticker. He's going to call over plays. He's going to bring an edge, an element to the defense that he's going to like. And Dan Campbell's going to be like, we got, between Aiden Hutchinson and Nakobe Dean, like the two best defensive guys in college last year. We just got them in the first round. Very happy. That just seems like how the Dan Campbell, if he has any sway, if he has any pull in that draft room, I think they could absolutely go Nakobe Dean at pick 32, and then they pick again early. They can literally get the best guy that fell in. They could still get their quarterback here. That's the joy of being the Lions in this situation. So there you go, guys. That is saying it's a long video. Thank you very much if you made it to this point for checking out my final 2022 NFL mock draft. No trades. I think there will be trades, but I think we have a couple good selections here. A couple selections that might help out our scoring. Might be able to take to the bank a little bit. But I'd love to hear what you guys think. Especially, I really would like to hear Pittsburgh. Given the quarterback board, if you go QB, if Willis is gone, like, what's the guy? Who is the quarterback that Pittsburgh really, really wants there at number 20? Obviously, there's going to be people say, I wouldn't go quarterback, but I would like to hear in that specific instance kind of where you're at. Maybe a couple surprise picks. I think Dean, maybe Elam could be a surprise selection. I think you could consider Pickens, Devin Lloyd, surprise selections. Maybe Kyle Hamilton falling to the Eagles at this point, a surprise selection. But I think we had some fun here, and I hope you guys did too. So thank you very much for watching. As always, your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. Smash the like button if you enjoyed. I will see you guys here on YouTube for my draft live stream on Thursday. Hope you can make it. Hope you can come chill out. And I'll see you guys then. Peace out.